So that's a note for best practice. If somebody wants to say something about that, great.
One more thing in that, which is, again, to go to 4th edition. One of the things that we've been talking about at Adepts Play a lot lately is that there's a lot more responsivity during other people's turns than most people realize in that game. That you can set up your abilities that give other characters, like people on your side, instant actions, whether to move or whether to attack and stuff like that. So if you know that if your buddy has that ability, you're still thinking of your character as dynamically involved, even though it's not your turn. And and also the fact that everybody can mess with everyone else's positioning in that game is one of its top features. That you can move, that you can say where your character goes, but a lot of things are going to happen where characters are going to be in different places than they expected. I also cited knockback in Champions as a primary element in play that most people don't realize is very important, because in Champions you can move other people around a lot. Herman, what were you going to say there?
Yeah, I was going to I've played 4th edition quite a bit, and the puzzle we had was that we had a group of, I think, 5 or 6 players, and 3 of them had like a good grasp of the system and an interest in the system, and the others were there to play D&D.
Right.
And that made it very difficult for... I do not go to say you should now do this because
right. Well, you can't play it for them. That's no fun. But it's very painful to watch them not do it. I've been at a similar table where 2 or 3 of us were really working off of each other's abilities, and the other 3 people were just waiting for their turn to roll a hit.
Yeah,
and
that makes it very unsatisfying to play that kind of.
It's generally problematic when someone plays to win, to plays almost professional, and others play just for fun.
I just think I tend to think of that as not quite the right comparison. I mean, that's another really difficult topic, I think, that we can go into. Yeah,
it's just more a way of system mastery and interest in that part of
interest.
There's a Swedish designer and I who've really sort of started a good conversation about that. So maybe we should make that its own topic with you, Alexander, because you've got you'd really like this guy too.
Okay.
Simon. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I want to kind of take that in mind, that we can have, on one hand, let's take that third category. Let's shift most of the important choice making to going into the resolution. And then once the order is set, we suck it up.
Which is mostly what Sorcerer does.
Right, and also the Marvel Universe game, also the 9 World one and stuff like that. And those have even less responsivity. The defense is just there, and you just have to suck it up. And so that's fine. And you also, if you get hammered by one of those coming in on you, you've lost your next action. That's just gone. So everything you said you were doing, forget it. And so that's one thing. But as long as the choices going in are very, very interesting, I find that satisfying. But if you do it the other way, where you do your execution and then you have lots of responsivity and choices, that sounds good too. I mean, it is good. I've done that too. The problem is having both of them at once. In other words, I think there's kind of a bit of a trade-off between interesting choices to start, now eat the order, versus, okay, everybody throw in and then you can respond.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, that's why you have the circle of hands falls on that side, because of the, in many ways, because where you end up in the order, it's going to affect whether you go defensive or not, for example.
I imagine the risk of having too much on both sides is you end up narrate loads of stuff that happens, and then re-narrate all sorts of things that actually happen once you've decided it, and you get really confused.
That's what I was just warning against. This definitely seems like there's a functional trade-off between those things. We don't want to maximize both of them. So
that's a really good point, actually.
So I'm trying to think of some other really... Oh, my God. Here's another fun thing. Sorry. We should now each have like a Eureka. Okay, well, I'll take turns in our Eureka. Oh my God, I forgot, This one's mine. Going back to original champions, and remember how I talked about like what a metronome it was and how dreadful that sounded? Because if you do it that way all by itself, then yes, it is dreadful. But it has a secondary system. It is a secondary system which functions completely at right angles to that, which is what characters say, which is not ordered or time constrained at all. Anybody can have their character talk, and the default is that everybody hears them. I mean, unrealistically, because it's a comic book and you're just reading the words on the page. Whoever you want to hear you hears you, and you can say whatever you want. In fact, they used to be jokes, like they'd stop the game and just play a whole aria from an opera, and then take it off just for a joke to play up the idiosyncrasies of the system. But the point is, in a comic book, you can write whatever you want in a word balloon. It's not time constrained. And so that would be just sort of fun, except that it also includes the subset of presence attacks, which are dice driven and based on talking, or are otherwise just corollaries to the action, so they take no time, no game time at all. And presence attacks are among the most consequential actions in the entire game. You are having a powerful impact on other characters' emotions and their ability to process information. If there's some powerful information you need to get across, and there's a question about how that's going to affect somebody's emotions, you make a presence attack. And so all of a sudden, if there's enough emotional and personal context in the fight among the super characters, if there's enough conflicting emotions at work there for more than one character, then that secondary system of speaking and the presence attacks that goes with it becomes absolutely productive relative to the ordered action. Really productive. And so if you put those two together, what looks like an incredibly tortuous system turns into something kind of amazing that you can't really describe. That all of a sudden being able to blurt out important information just before that guy's attack, and it has its own dice. So it's unordered. Technically, you make up the order because you decide to say it there, and everybody has full power to do it. But then the impact of it is dice driven. And so it's really very exciting. And it's just like these incredibly soap opera super fights where people are blurting out important information, everybody, the villain suddenly decides to protect his daughter, the superhero that he didn't realize was his daughter. And all of a sudden he's blasting his partner, and then that triggers someone else's berserk, and then they attack the villain when the daughter doesn't want them to, and that kind of shit just goes berserk in Champions. And
it also feeds into the ordering as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But the ordering is the chassis, right? The ordering, it has to be that ordered in order for this stuff to disrupt the action, or to disrupt what's announced. So it's a very weird interaction that only appeared through actual play. Nobody would ever have designed this. They obviously arrived at it through play and just wrote it down. So, so that's another interesting point. Orthogonal ordering or contributory processes that can make what looks like an incredibly boring ordering system into something else.
Okay,
wait, Alexander first.
Okay.
She came.
Sorry.
She shouted louder, Manu.
Sorry. Shouting is okay.
We'll say to a roll initiative.
That's right. Make you guys roll.
I was wondering, I played lately Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, and I don't remember if there is initiative, but there is when I'm attacking you, you can either dodge or try to counterattack.
Mm-hmm.
And how it looks like. So I'm attacking, I'm rolling the dice, and for example, I get a success. And if on your roll you get a higher success than mine, so you should have like I know it's called probably critical success or something. Then you get to attack me instead. And my question is it disrupting the initiative, or does it work in the topic? Because
it does. That's a very significant. To be able to counterattack as part of your defense is very unusual in role playing.
Okay, because something similar is in the 4th edition of Warhammer.
Yeah, 2nd as well.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that in 4th edition and I think in Call of Cthulhu, it was made for to solve the problem with fighting that doesn't do anything. Like I hit you, I didn't hit you, I didn't hit you, I hit you for 1.
Yeah. This seems related to attacks of opportunity as well, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's also something that's in Marvel Heroic Roleplaying.
Right.
So it's not like it wouldn't be called initiative, but it disrupts the who's next in combat.
Riddle of Steel has a maneuver called Riposte, which also plays into this. But the and also let's not forget all the way back to Flashing Blades and the other fencing games of the time, like at Rapier's Point. These are games around 1980 or so, or just after, and they're very exquisitely detailed fencing games, obviously written by crazy fencers who can't abide the idea of anything they ever learned in class not having a rule. But the Zach's laughing. You should see them. They're only they look like very slim games. But that's only because the type is so tiny.
I'm laughing because I'm a fencing coach.
Right. And so the way that I see some of these things is that they aren't an initiative system, but they are an ordering system. In other words, initiative in and of itself is just one option or one way of coping with ordering. And so you're definitely it's a responsivity thing, which I've always liked in role-playing and have found very painful to implement in role-playing. The clash rules in Circle of Hands are intended to be involved with this, but I will be the first to admit that the clash rules are very archaic relative to the rest of the game. They're quite they're the one part of the game that looks like they were done in the early 90s.
Do you not like them for that reason?
No, I like them quite a bit, but I've noticed that the learning curve is quite steep.
Yeah.
For people.
It was hard really, and very unwieldy with the circle for playing online.
Yeah, I agree. The online play is quite hard for that game.
There's also the game Dagger and Shadow by Matt Snyder. I think he didn't done it.
No, I have my copy of it, but it was just passed around for a little while.
Yeah, but there was something like we make an initiative based on on something, and the last player says so similar to World of Darkness. So last player says first what he's doing, the second before its own, and from after the first player, and if something was not working out, you could change your action, but it would cost you.
Right.
If you wanted to change it, like probably it wouldn't be possible to do or wouldn't make sense to do.
Yeah. Shifting, the idea being that you can shift to something, but your options are limited, or there's some resource you have to burn or something. I actually quite like a lot of these kinds of rules. These kind of, this is coming in at me now. What am I going to do that's a little bit desperate, a little bit limited?
But it's very unwieldy. Like
can
I
be.
always had very big problems with remembering what like 3 players before me
Right.